quick message before I start this video. I will be doing a full in-depth spoiler review of the Boys of Tommen series, so if you haven't read it and don't want to hear any spoilers, then I would not recommend watching this video. But also, this video includes a lot of triggering topics because that is what is covered in the books. So if you're not comfortable with any of the triggers I am about to mention, please do not watch the video, just because I would not want to trigger anyone. So the topics that I'll be talking about is abuse, alcoholism, drug addiction, suicide, self-harm, and sexual assault. So if any of these topics do trigger you, please do not watch this video, because they are all topics that I will be talking about in depth from the books. Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. So for this week's video, I decided that I wanted to do a full in-depth spoiler review of honestly one of my all-time favourite series. And that series is the Boys of Tommen series by Chloe Walsh. I started this series last year, and honestly, this has become such a big part of my heart, and it's one of my all-time favourite series that I've ever read. I just love the characters and the stories and just this little world that Chloe created with all these characters, and I just really wanted to do a full spoiler in-depth review of the books and my opinions on them. So the way that the Boys of Tommen series is split up is that it's done in 2 books per couple. So I'll start off with the first 2, and that is Binding and Keeping 13. Now, Binding and Keeping 13 follows Shannon and Johnny. Shannon is a 15-year-old girl who comes from an abusive household where she lives in constant fear of her dad because he is an alcoholic who abuses them. And she was getting really badly bullied at her school, so she transfers to Tommen College, so she can have a fresh start and stop being bullied so much. And when she goes there, she reunites with 2 of her friends who she had from when she was a little kid, so which is Lizzie and Claire. And on the very first day of school, I think she forgets her phone in the bathroom or something, and she has to go back and get it, and to try and make the walk shorter to go back to her classes, she decides to cut across the rugby field and gets hit in the head by a rugby ball that Johnny kicks, and it knocks her out. And it just kind of starts this journey with them where he kind of he just feels protective of her instantly, because he can tell that she's very fragile and that she's a very innocent person, and he just wants to protect her, especially after he accidentally hurt her. And just seeing the way that Johnny instantly starts to protect Shannon just warms my heart so much. I just love these 2 as a couple so much. And I'm not a fan of slow burn romances, I'm really not, but I am with this series because these 2 books are really slow burn. They do not get to, this book is almost 800 pages, and they don't even get together in this book. They don't get together until book 2. And just the friendship that they build and the relationship that they build together, and the way that he promises he will protect her no matter what, just honestly fills me with so much happiness when I think of him. And I just love the whole found family aspects that this series gives you, especially with Johnny and his parents with Shannon and stuff, and then in school with Gibbsy and Johnny and all that, when they all hang out and things. And I just think it's so it's such a heartwarming thing in a book that covers a lot of very dark topics. So obviously with the alcoholism and the abuse and bullying and everything like that, it's just there's also a miscarriage in this book and just a lot of stuff. And I also just really love Shannon's relationship with her older brother Joey. I just love the way that she idolizes him, and she knows that he is the reason she has survived so long in that house, and she genuinely appreciates him for everything that he's ever done for her. And just I am obsessed with everything. And then the way this book ends, obviously, is Shannon's dad has beaten her so badly that she's bleeding on the floor, and at the end of the book, Joey gives their mum an ultimatum to choose between him and them. And that's when it ends. And honestly, that cliffhanger at the end of the book made me automatically wanting to go into book 2, and I did straight away. I read these books so quickly, especially considering how big they are. I read them so fast. But the book ends on a cliffhanger, which made me really want to go on to book number 2. But there's just also other scenes in this book that I love so much, like the scene when Johnny's in the hospital and he's high on the pain medication. And one of my favourite quotes from this series is, "She makes my heart go boom, boom, fucking boom, da." And I love it so much. Like, that scene makes me laugh every time I read it. And like, this boy is just so down bad for this girl. And I love that Shannon, like, when Johnny asks her who's hurting her, Shannon admits it's her dad because she thinks he's so high on pain medication. He won't know that. He won't remember any of it, and he won't remember what she said. But like, when he wakes up, he can remember her saying that it's her dad, something about her dad, but he can't remember what, and he can't put the pieces together. And then that leads us into book 2, where their mom does kick out their dad after what he did to Shannon, because she goes into the hospital because she's very, very badly beaten. And Johnny finally remembers what Shannon told him about her dad, and the fact that he is the one who is hurting her. And the second he knows, he says to his dad, "I need you to take me back," and he wants to go and see her. And like, just his automatic reaction is, "I need to protect this girl." And then like, he tells his parents about what's going on, and they find out what's going on, and they do everything they can to adopt the Lynch siblings and wants to take care of them. And like, I love the relationship between Adele and Joey, and like the way like she treats him with love and respect, because that's something he's never gotten from his own mother. And like, there's just so many scenes in this book that I love, and but also like, they round me up. And like, one of the scenes that I love is when Johnny's mom is at Shannon's house talking to her mom, and she says to Johnny, "Keep your hands off my daughter," and Adele says, "You should have said that to your husband." And I'm just like, yes, you queen. I love Adele Kavanaugh so much. She is such a badass. I love Johnny's parents so much because they are just such incredible people. And like, the scene where Adele and John are getting a bit frisky in the kitchen, and Johnny comes home with Shannon, and just everything about like their relationship and everything that happens with them. And then like, obviously in this book, Shannon and Joey's parents die because the dad pours gasoline all over the house and he sets it on fire. But people have some theories that it's actually their mom who sets the house on fire. But that's never been confirmed. And one of the most heartbreaking scenes in this book is the scene where Joey has left because obviously he's had an argument. Shannon had called Johnny. Johnny picked him up and saved Shannon and her little brothers and took them back to his. And then he went back with his dad to the house to check on Marie because he said he would come back for her. And Joey was outside the house and he thought all of his siblings were dead. But then Johnny was like, "I got them out." And Joey was like, "You got my kids out." And honestly, that scene was heartbreaking. Like, Joey thought he'd lost everything because he'd left home that night. And then he realised he hadn't. And he's so amazing. But there's one character who comes into this book that I really do not like, who really pisses me off, and that is Darren Lynch, the oldest Lynch sibling. He left them all like 5 years. He didn't contact them, and like, obviously he went through all the same abuse that they did, and like, but he abandoned them. And then he came back and he tried to take over, and he tried to say that like Joey was irrelevant. And the way that Shannon has a go at Darren is honestly one of my favorite things, because she's like, Joey literally fed and clothed us for years and took care of us and took all the beating for us, and how can you say that he's irrelevant? And then another scene involving Darren is he comes to the school to pick up Shannon, and she doesn't want to go with him. She's like very clearly does not want to go with him. And then Lizzie shouts, Claire shouts, she doesn't want to go with you, so you can't make her. And the second that she shouts this, like, Shannon's like, it turns to her as like kind of shocked, because she's like, why are you shouting this? But then she notices Johnny, Gibbsy, and like all the other rugby boys are like stood in the car park, and they're all just turned with like murderous expressions on their faces. And like, every time I think of that scene, I think of the sound from TikTok, the Bring the Lions Out one. Like, every time I think of that scene, I think of that song, that like sound, because it perfectly demonstrates that scene because of how much they are so willing to protect Shannon. And like, one of my other favourite relationships in this book is this friendship between Gibbsy and Shannon. Like, she's never felt safe around men for obvious reasons. And obviously she feels safe around Johnny because she's fallen for him, and she feels safe around Joey because he's her big brother. But Gibbsy is the first male friend who she feels safe around, and she feels comfortable just being herself around. And I think that's so beautiful and so special. And their little friendship is something that means so much to me in these books, because I just think it's so cute that Gibbsy just accepted this girl from the second that she arrived at the school, and just was so sweet and kind to her. And just like everything that happened with this book, and then the Lynch siblings getting adopted by the Kavanaghs, and like just that whole thing. And then like Shannon, because she's finally moved into a home where she's safe and happy, she obviously like gets healthier, and she's like eating more, so she's like filling into her body more, and she's becoming more herself, and she's feeling more confident in who she is, and she's being more outspoken. And I just love that so much, that she got that time to heal a little bit. And that is something that's so special with this book, that you got to see the characters heal. But something that makes me laugh is the fact when Johnny comes back from Dublin from playing for the rugby team, the second he sees Shannon running up the beach, like, she's all happy, and like she's filled into her body and everything, and like she's wearing a bikini because she's really happy at the beach. And Johnny can just like titties because that is exactly what he's thinking when she's running up the beach to him. And yeah, they just have the sweetest relationship, and I love them so much. And I reread Binding 13 recently, and I want to reread Keeping soon. I want to reread the whole series just because I'm so obsessed with it, and I just love the characters and their stories. And then finally, one of my last favourite scenes in this book is at Tommen, where after Bella has just like attacked Shannon in the bathroom and like rubbed like a tuna sandwich all over her, and like written like slut on her forehead in lipstick and stuff, and like Joey comes because Shannon calls him, and like he, or I think she calls him, I can't remember, but Joey and Aoife show up at the school, who obviously Aoife is Joey's girlfriend, and like he punches Bella's boyfriend because obviously he refused to hit a girl. But then Aoife steps in, and Bella's like, and one of my favourite lines from this book is when Bella goes, who the hell are you? And Aoife goes, your worst nightmare, bitch. And it's so iconic, and honestly it's why Aoife is my favourite girl from the series, especially when I read the next two books, because that's Aoife and Joey's books. But yeah, no, that scene is just so iconic, and I love it so much. But yeah, I just love this book, and this is my favourite one in the series as of right now, because I just love it so much. But that was like obviously all of Johnny's. That was all of Johnny and Shannon's relationship and their timeline and how everything happened with them. And then moving on into books 3 and 4, we have the relationship between Joey and Aoife in Saving and Redeeming 6. So Saving is very much a big backstory book. Saving follows Joey's life through high school and how him and Aoife met and became friends before they started dating, and like how their entire relationship came to be. Um, because obviously, like, they met like in like the very first year of, I think, high school, and like just how they interact with each other is so special, and just like the little like everything that happens between them. And I loved reading these books because you've got a deeper perspective on Joey's, like how he felt about everything. But when I read these, when I reread Binding, after knowing how Joey feels in his books, it made me view the scenes between Joey and Shannon so differently. Because obviously, like I said, Shannon views Joey as this like hero and protector and the person who will always be there for her. But Joey, because of everything he's had to go through and how, because he's had to take charge of his siblings and take care of them, he just sees Shannon as another mouth to feed, another burden that he has to take care of, because after Darren left, he was the only one who could, because their mum couldn't do anything because she was hopeless. And it really changed how I saw their relationship, because Joey does love his siblings. He loves Shannon and Sean and Ollie and Tag, or whatever the fuck his name is. I think it's Tag. I don't know. It's an Irish name, okay? I struggle to pronounce it. But like, you see their relationship. And like, he does love his siblings, but he also views them as a burden, because from such a young age, he was in charge of taking care of them. And his way of coping with that is he started using drugs, and he became a drug addict, and he really struggled with a lot of things, and the only way he could cope a lot of the time after being beaten by his dad so much is to take drugs. And Aoife kind of becomes a little bit of a safety net for him, and becomes this thing that will love him, not because he's family, but because of who he is as a person. And when she finds out more about his life and like them like going through their journey together in this book, like, she doesn't know anything that's going on within in his home life in this book. She just thinks he's like this like surly guy who likes to like smoke weed and stuff at school, who she just finds really attractive and things. But like, they always just have this like connection. Like, even though he tries to say he has no interest in her, they have this connection, and she tries so hard to be his friend at first because she just wants to know him and be in his life. And no matter how hard he tries to push her away, she won't let him. And she just kind of shows up around him so much because he works at her dad's garage. And just the way that she doesn't give up on him is something that I think Joey really, really needed. And that he like needed to see within this book. And like, he needed that person to come into his life to show him that he is worth being loved by someone who just knows him for him. So obviously, like, there's a lot of backstory that goes on in Saving, and then Redeeming follows the same timeline as Binding and Keeping. And getting to see some of the scenes from Binding and Keeping from Joey's perspective was genuinely so heartbreaking. Like, the final scene in Binding where Shannon gets beat by her dad, seeing it from Joey's perspective and how heartbroken he is, just changes how you see a lot of things with like the dynamic of the situation. And like, you can see why Joey is so damaged because of the relationship he has with his mom, because he's done everything he can to protect her and protect the kids in the house, and she is horrible to him, and she's mentally abusive to him, and she constantly says that he's just like their dad, and that is something he never wants to be, because he doesn't want to be like someone who scares their kids and abuses them and makes a home unlivable. And when she says that, he believes it, because it's hard for him to not believe it when it's all she says to him. And just hearing their relationship is so horrible, because it makes me hate Marie more than I already did. So, like, there is the argument to be made that Marie was also a victim, and yes, she was. She got pregnant at a very, very young age, and she got stuck with this abusive arsehole who manipulated her and beat her and threatened her life constantly. And yes, she is a victim in that respect, but she is also a villain as well in this story with the way that she treats Joey, the way that she basically acts as if the sun shines out of Darren's arse, but Joey is worthless, when Joey is the one who literally is raising her kids for her because she's given up. And she keeps taking back this man who she knows is hurting her family, but because she's so used to it, she just takes him back every time. And so when it got to the scene, obviously, where there was the fire and everything, knowing what Joey went through that night is just so heart-wrenching, and I was crying because that night he tried to take his own life, and he literally just like, he left that house because it all became too much for him, and then he tried to take his own life, but he was stopped by Lizzie, and he goes back to the house because he wants to go back to be there for his siblings, and he sees the house is burnt down, and he tries to get inside, but he can't because the firemen won't let him, and he thinks that he's failed his siblings and that they're all dead because he almost gave up and he almost lost them all. And just like, he thinks that everything he's ever loved is gone, and then like his like relief when Johnny turns up and tells him that they're all still alive and that he got them out and stuff, just like, you just saw the pure love in his heart for his siblings, like with everything that he just went through in that one night. And then he really withdrew within himself, and like when he went to the Kavanaghs to stay with them because because they were going to take care of him and his siblings, and like how they put him into rehab and stuff, and they finally gave him the help that he deserved. And even though he really wanted to fight it, he knew he needed to get the help because Aoife was pregnant. She was pregnant with his kid, and like, something that really, really pissed me off in this book is the fact that Darren and Marie tried to pay Aoife off to make her get an abortion to get rid of his child. And honestly, just that was just a scene that solidified my hatred for those two characters, because I already hate them as it is. But that scene, and then just like the way Joey got himself better so he could be a good dad to his kid because he wanted to be nothing like his own father, and he spent his whole life being a dad, and he knows how to do it and he knows how to be good at it, but he wants to really heal himself so he can be a good partner to Aoife, but he can also be an amazing dad to their son. And I just think that his development was so incredible with everything that he went through, and then when he transferred to Tommen and stuff. And honestly, I just love him as a character. And then obviously there's Aoife. Aoife, she struggled so much with everything that happened with Joey because she loved him with everything in her heart, but she got put through some traumatic stuff. For example, she took Joey's siblings out for the day so him and Shannon could rest and stuff and just like relax and go out for breakfast and stuff and things like that. And she took them out and took them to the park, and she came home and she got them changed and everything, and she got them like ready for bed and stuff. And when she was in the kitchen on her own, someone came in and started like touching her from behind, and she thought it was Joey, but then it turned out to be Teddy Lynch. And she went through a really traumatic experience and she didn't know how to deal with it. And honestly, at that point, she could have given up on Joey, but she didn't. She stayed by his side because of how much she loved him, and she knew that what happened that night was not his fault. And just seeing her experience while he's going through all of this, and then him healing for her, and like her just being his partner and being by his side for the whole lot of it, just really shows how much they love each other with every part of their being. And I just think that, like, honestly, like, one of my favorite book couples ever. I'm still a big Johnny and Shannon girl. I just think like that they're my top couple in this series at the moment. But I do love Joey and Aoife, and Aoife is my favorite girl in the Boys of Tommen series. Just who she is as a person, and how she acts and how she treats other people is just amazing, and I just love her. And then the very final book that is out at the moment, the next book comes out in the series very soon though, and I'm very, very excited for it. We have Taming Seven, which is Gibbsy and Claire's book. I was excited for Gibbsy's and Claire's book since I read Binding and Keeping, just because I love them as like a duo, because they're just so funny and like bubbly together. But when you read this book, you get a much deeper insight into Gibbsy and his life. And throughout the other books, he's been like the class clown. He's been the one who makes everyone laugh, the one who's there to cheer people up, the one who's there to pick someone up when they're down. And that's because that's the persona he's forced himself into, because he thinks no one's going to want him around if he really shows what's happened to him in the past. And he has been so messed up since he was 7 years old, and he was sexually abused by his stepbrother. And he didn't think he could tell anyone, and then the one person who did know ended up committing suicide because of what she found out and all the information on it. And he felt like he couldn't tell anybody about what had happened to him. And you just see how much of a loving and caring person Gibbsy is. Like in Redeeming, when Joey, or it's either in Redeeming or Saving, Joey goes on a drug binge and Aoife needs to get him out of there, but she needs to pay Joey's drug dealer. So she calls Gibbsy, and he just comes and gives her the money, and he doesn't ask for it back. He doesn't want it back. He just comes, gives her the money, and just helps with no questions asked. And that's the kind of person he is. He helps, no questions asked. He will be there for the people he cares about. And even though he doesn't really know Joey that well, all he knows is really is that he is Shannon's older brother. He literally was there for Joey like so much. So helped when he was like extremely overdosed on drugs, and he helped like Johnny clean him up and get him sober. And then he gave Aoife the money for Joey, and then he helped Joey carry the casket at the mum's funeral, because they had no one to carry the casket for her, because none of her family showed up. And like he was just like, I'm there for you, and he didn't want anything in return. And he's just such a loving person. And honestly, I think Gibbsy is like one of my all-time favorite characters, because you realize that he is such comic relief. He tries to be the comic relief, but that's just not who he is as a whole. And like when everyone finds out what happened, he's scared it's going to change how everyone sees him. So like the way they find out obviously is because Kiva, who is Lizzie's older sister, left Gibbsy a letter before she killed herself, and she said she was sorry that she didn't see anything, that she didn't know what was happening, and that she couldn't stop it. And everyone believed that, I think his name is Mark, everyone thought that Mark had raped Kiva, but actually he'd done it to Gibbsy, and that's what Kiva killed herself for, because she was so heartbroken that this thing happened and she didn't even know. And so obviously the night of their school dance, Claire finds the letter that Kiva had left Gibbsy, and she read it, and she found out the whole situation, and she completely broke down. And like she was so heartbroken that Shannon knew as well. And so she told Shannon, because she didn't really know what to do. And like she got to her breaking point, and then something that she did in this book I don't agree with when they were all in like this common room area together, Lizzie was giving crap to Gibbsy, because she always does, because she blames Gibbsy for what happened to Kiva, because it was she thought it was his stepbrother who had sexually assaulted her sister. But Claire obviously now knows the truth, and the thing I don't agree with is she outed what happened to Gibbsy to everyone, and like everyone, like in that like snap second, Joey automatically understood what had happened, and he tried to calm the situation, and like Gibbsy just had to get out of there, and he got out of there, and everyone found out what happened that night, and Johnny went to see Gibbsy because he's his best friend, and he just wanted to be there for him and just try and protect his best friend, and everyone just really came together for him, and the only person who didn't believe him was Lizzie. And in a way, like obviously a lot of people are mad at Lizzie for not believing him, and a lot of people said there's too much Lizzie in this book, and honestly I don't agree with that statement. So in this book, obviously there is a lot of Lizzie in it, but that is because Lizzie and Gibbsy's stories are very, very interconnected, because everything that happened to Gibbsy, Lizzie thinks happened to her sister, so she blames Gibbsy for something that his stepbrother did, but it didn't actually happen to her sister. And for so many years after she lost her sister, she believed this one version of the narrative because that's what everybody believed, when in reality that isn't actually what happened, and she can't wrap her head around the fact that she's been blaming someone for something that actually happened to them and not to the person she loves, and she can't accept this because of how much she's gone through. And do I agree with how Lizzie acts and how she treats Gibbsy? No, I don't, because she shouldn't treat anybody like that, and she shouldn't have said any of the things that she said to him out of anger. But this is something that I've talked to my friends about and something that we've agreed on. You can't love Joey and hate Lizzie, because yes, Joey didn't, like, he wasn't like verbally abusive to anyone, and he wasn't horrible to anyone with his words, but he also did a lot of messed up stuff, like with the drug addiction and everything, and all the stuff that happened with him, and like him not getting clean and stuff like that. So he wasn't a perfect person, and Lizzie was so young when she lost her sister that she's believed the same narrative for her whole life. It's going to be hard for her to wrap her head around, and I'm really looking forward to reading her books, just because I want to obviously see more into her mind and how she saw the whole situation. And I really hope that Lizzie and Gibbsy can patch up their relationship in the future, just because I feel like they could be good for each other as friends. But obviously there's so many years of animosity between them that it's going to be a very hard relationship to fix. And I just think that when anyone says that there's too much Lizzie in this book, I think you're not fully looking at it with like proper perspective on the situation, because Lizzie needed to be in the story as much as she was because of how much her story relates to Gibbsy's story. And like, I'm glad that a lot of it wasn't just focusing on just Gibbsy and Claire's relationship, because we needed the backstory on Gibbsy and to who he is as a person, and we needed the information on Lizzie to be going into her book. And then we're getting another book for Claire and Gibbsy, and then we're getting another book for Lizzie and Huey, because that's who the next couple is. So yeah, I think you need to look at it as a wider perspective, because Gibbsy and Claire, like, their relationship is so amazing because she's there for him unconditionally, because they're best friends, and they are best friends first before they are boyfriend and girlfriend, and their just entire relationship is built on love and how much they love each other as people. And like, Claire being there for Gibbsy and being on his side after the whole situation came out of what happened to him as a kid just proves how much she loves him, because she's willing to give up a friendship with one of her best friends to protect someone who's been hurt and who she loves so much. And just in a nutshell, I just love this series because of how beautiful and complicated and all these characters are. I love all of their stories and their character development and everything that, like, I experienced so many emotions while reading the series, and that's why it's a 5-star series for me. Like, I am so excited for the next book to come out. I can't wait for releasing 10. I've already pre-ordered it because I'm so excited. Like, the second I knew that it was coming out, I was so excited and I could not wait. And I could not wait until May 27th for it to come out, just because I'm so excited for it. And yeah, I'm so happy with this. I just love this series so much, and I just think that everyone should read it, because it is so incredible. But no, that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this in-depth review of the Boys of Tommen series. I just wanted to rant about my favourite series just because I love it so freaking much. But yeah, no, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like, comment and subscribe, and hit that little notification bar below so you know when I upload. I upload every Friday at 6 PM and every 2 weeks on a Tuesday with a reading vlog at 5 PM. But I will catch you guys next time.